You aren't a real artist. You're just copying something, or maybe worse, someone else's art. I could not begin to tell you how many times I have heard people demean the use of reference. Hearing things such as, I feel bad about copying things, or it's not my art if I didn't make 100% of it from my brain. The sentiment almost seems noble, but at its core it is simply flawed. Reference exists for a reason, and whether it was Da Vinci and Michelangelo, or your favorite Instagram artist of today, rest assured, somewhere in their past is the deep, dark secret that they, too, have used reference. In this video, we are going to take a look at 3 common myths concerning references for artists. Let's dive in. First of all, let's set up some definitions for the conversation. I am but a single human, albeit with some background in this area, but this is how I would define reference in shorthand. Reference material is visual material that we as artists use to reinforce whatever we are creating, and to fill in the gaps in our visual memory. If you are painting a landscape from a photograph, that particular photo is your reference. If you were drawing a character and need to know what a wizard's staff looks like, you might find a half dozen pictures to serve as reference material for you to refer to in the process of creating your image. Those images are your references. They can be physical objects, another artist's work, or even work from your own past. A reference is just that, something we refer to in order to pull extra information into our craft and make our final piece more accurate to our original intent. Myth 1. If I use reference, it isn't my art. It's not 100% mine if I use reference. But nothing is 100% yours anyway. This thought process often just goes way too far. If it bothers you to use reference material because it no longer feels authentic, I get it. My recommendation would be to detach yourself from the notion that it has to be 100% yours, as that concept simply doesn't have much bearing on the real world. Your brain holds on to tiny little excerpts of everything you see around you, references to the reality you take in through your eyes. And even if it was possible to create something out of nothing, then it would make little sense to your audience, to the other humans who observe the same world as you. Using references that everyone has a reference point for will help your art be more easily translated into something that hits another person the way you intended. Or maybe the exact opposite way you intended, but hopefully it will elicit some manner of response from your audience. Using reference does not compromise the authenticity of a piece being yours. In fact, it may make it more yours. Famous authors, musical artists, and painters for ages are on record mentioning the people they pulled from, their favorite composers or artists. And if you look hard enough, you can see the link between their work. You are just the most recent link in an unfathomably long chain of creators, building on those that came before. It's kind of beautiful. So no, it can totally still be your artwork if you used reference material. Not just because so many others have before you, but because your work is naturally a combination of all the things important and valuable to you. You are the filter through which we get to see new things. If you are enjoying these discussions, please consider liking the video and subscribing as well. It helps tremendously. Myth 2. If I use reference, I'm just copying or plagiarizing. Now, we talked about using more sterile reference material earlier, but what if you use reference material from other artists? What if you are working from one of Loish's lovely books, or the Breath of the Wild concept art book? Obviously, there are some legal implications if you copy another artist's work and sell it. But is there something morally wrong about copying another artist's work for your own enjoyment, or drawing upon many artists' work for either commercial or personal use? First of all, it certainly seems morally objectionable to copy someone else's artwork and then claim it as your own. Not to mention, it's also legally objectionable. But that does not imply that you should, under no circumstances, copy another artist's work. So no, reference by its nature is not plagiarizing, at least. But does this mean copying is okay? Let's take a look at the goal of the art in an effort to understand. If you are enamored with an artist and your goal is to draw more like them, then copying their work or referencing their work can be tremendously helpful. I often do this. I will find a few pages that have tons of anatomy to study, and I will just copy the pages. Do I post those on the internet? No. I could, for sure, but I personally don't. And if I did, I would always mention what I was working on, and likely refer to it as a study. So learning to draw like a specific artist checks out. If your goal is to figure out how someone more skilled than you solves a problem, referencing their art is an amazing shortcut. They might have 20 years of experience on you, and you can take that gift and move forward. We get this from art teachers in our lives in a more direct fashion. This might be one of the best reasons to use another artist's work as reference, as you can learn from their studying and learn from their successes. Lastly, in this second myth, let's talk about copying for just a moment. What is so wrong about the concept of copying? This is literally how we get better, and how we are often taught in schools to learn, right? How many years of our life have we spent copying things, copying notes in history class or lines for a play? When you're learning a musical instrument, you copy by playing and rehearsing another artist's composition. Copying for the sake of learning is totally fine, and copying for the sake of fun, again, totally fine. So no, using reference material cannot just be boiled down to wrongful copying or plagiarism. There's an incredible amount that we can only learn from copying real life, and so many things we can learn more quickly from referencing other artists. Myth 3. If I use reference, I'm an amateur. Okay, this one has some layers to it. First of all, no. Many professionals and exceedingly skillful artists still use reference constantly. It is not an amateur thing. In fact, there seems to be a moment in most artists' lives where they overcome their problems using reference and then begin to climb the artistic mountain at a greatly increased pace. And what is so wrong about being an amateur anyway? If you're just beginning to learn, then you are by definition an amateur at whatever task you are referring to. There's no shame in that, or at least there shouldn't be. I don't like looking like I don't know what I'm doing, and I can certainly let my pride get ahead of me. But that can be one of the worst things for artistic growth. Sometimes the desire to not appear amateur is a pride or an arrogance issue, almost feeling like, I should be better than I am. The art road is a difficult one, but clinging to humility is one of the best things any of us can do. I have a sign in my studio for myself that goes to this exact point. It says, "Check your arrogance at the door. It has no place here." That's it. I have to remember often that humility is the way any of us get better at this. So try not to worry too much about having the appearance of being an amateur. Rejoice in where you are, and if you are dissatisfied, keep pushing through until you get better. So no, reference does not make you an amateur, and even if it did, that just wouldn't be that big of a deal. Reference makes you better, and most good artists know that and use it as a tool to continually improve themselves. Well, I hope you found these helpful, and I hope you feel better about using reference materials moving forward. Are there any other reasons why you sometimes feel weird or awkward about using references? If so, please leave them in the comments down below. I'm especially interested if you've had teachers or instructors in your life that have harped on you for using reference. Well, have a good one, y'all. See you soon.